An explosion Wednesday dawn which sent shrapnel and other ordnance flying into homes in and around the Ghana Armed Forces Ammunitions Depot and Michelle Camp has left the residents terrified. The residents speak of an explosion that let out a ball of fire followed by a series of explosions shortly after midnight on Wednesday, which kept them awake for the rest of the night. As night approaches again, the trauma they suffered, they say, would deprive them of their sleep and would wish the ammunitions depot is relocated. MFA Etiamwa Eli visited the community and reports.
Many were the residents who witnessed the explosion.
Because the whole night.
Just seeing the whole thing as if we were dreaming. We couldn't understand. So we have to stay outside for hours. So it was very terrific.
More residents emerged from their homes in the morning to recount the experiences. 93-year-old Jeanette Odai said she fell several times upon hearing the explosion. She tells Joy News her knees and shoulders hurt so bad because her children had to drag her to safety. So now Grandma is getting a bit emotional. You can understand. She's 93 years old. So while all of this has been happening, she's been falling down all the time. She tells me one of her children in Bishley actually called her to check on her, whether she's okay. And before they realized another explosion again, they actually heard noise that somebody's house had been hit by a rocket. And that's also prompted another running, and in the course he fell down again. All she could realize was that everybody was pulling her left and right with the hope to take her to safety. That's why she's crying. She says her knees are hurting her because she was dragged. They dragged her on the floor just so nothing will happen to her. Others were unenthused that the facility lacked a permanent fire tender, which they felt could have reduced the extent of damage.
I came to interview one of the soldiers because when it happened, they ran to our place. They said this place is a little safer. So I was asking them that, so this big place, formerly there was a fire tender here, a car here always. But nowadays we don't see the car. He told me the car is not working anymore. Then I was asking them, how can this big place without a fire tender, which is very dangerous? If there were to be a fire tender here and it happened, they could have controlled the fire.
The soldiers on their part were keen on retrieving as much of the shrapnel as they could, while ensuring no exploded ordnances were left behind. In one of the homes that had some of the armaments, the assemblyman for the Kakasunanka No. 1 and Michelle Camp electoral area, Anthony Nupenu, had to facilitate its retrieval because its occupants had left for work. He called for the evacuation of all heavy weaponry at the base.
I believe the best is to relocate the highly explosive metals in the yard to area that we don't have settlement, so that government can take steps to protect the boundary of that armory than to talk about demolishing settlements here. That will not be an ideal situation. So I believe this has affirmed our call for all these years that government needs to do something about this armory. And I believe maybe it's God's intervention for government to hear the cry of the people who have settled here and are living here.
Meanwhile, Chief of Defense Staff Lieutenant General Ubed Akwa has cautioned residents in and around Kakasunanka against touching or taking for keeps any foreign objects that may have landed in their homes.
Those who live within this community, if they should come across any foreign objects, they should not touch it. If you find any missile, anything that is foreign within your community, don't touch it. Just make a report to Michelle Camp, the commanding officer, and experts from BAD will go examine it and defuse it.
The residents meanwhile say they fear government may use the incident as an excuse to embark on a demolition exercise of their homes. For Joy News, MFA Ewena Matiamwa Eli reporting. Michelle Camp, Accra.
The Ghana Armed Forces has meanwhile served notice to all residents living in unauthorized structures in the vicinity of the ammunition depot to relocate. Though the military has no immediate plans to embark on a demolition exercise there, it says it will be in the interest of the residents to move, adding repeated calls for people not to build close to the military installation to falling on deaf ears. On speculations that the explosion may have been triggered by a malfunctioning air conditioning unit, Public Relations Director Colonel Aggrey Kwashi says it is too early for such conclusions. He spoke with Latif Idris.
Oh, for now, it's when they finish with the investigation that we'll be able to know. But I can tell you that the building that housed those items, the building is totally damaged.
You are talking about the state of the armory?
Yeah. No, the armory is intact, but the workshop where those things that got bent. And fortunately, it didn't affect any of the warehouses that contain the ammunition. They are all intact. And the story would have been different. Yes, it's a workshop where we had some pyrotechnics and some dummy ammunition which they use for training. All those things were there. Those explosions came from the pyrotechnics. You know, anytime we are doing fireworks, those things that we blow for the displays, yes, those things were there. So once they came into contact with fire, you get those explosions. Yes.
So what are we looking at now? Are we looking at evicting the people or relocating the armory and also the workshop?
Not for the workshop. It's a facility within the yard that is needed because you train people, and that is where you train, where you keep some of those things. And so that facility would definitely have to be rebuilt. But relocating the facility or relocating the people, it's a very different issue altogether. These are major decisions that need to be taken by not even only the military hierarchy alone, but the government itself, because relocating that thing is not a simple thing. But my worry is that it doesn't matter where you send it. People will go closer to the place, because today when you go to the Bondasi training camp, it used to be very far in the bush, but people are now living close to the place. That place to be fire live rounds. And so next time you want to fire, you have to go around warning the villages. But when we started using the facility, it was complete bush. We didn't worry too much about some of these things. So these are some of the things.
We can prevent some of these things, can't we?
Yes, the prevention is to make sure that the safety regime within the facility is up to scratch.
That is the question I'm going at. Are there standards, I mean, international and maybe within our jurisdiction, are there standards that says that the proximity is, say, 10 kilometers so that no, residential building is supposed to be 10 kilometers away from an armory? Are there standards and are we complying?
You always want to look at the type of ammunition that you have in that armory. What is the lethal area? You see, the maximum effective range of what you have there. That will tell you the distance from which people should be. And so if you have things that the maximum effective range is 100 meters, then you can put people 100 meters. But if you have something that can travel as far as 25 kilometers, that should tell you that people should leave that distance away from the place. And some of the bombs go far. So it's not only the question of how close or how far the person is from the place.
Now, Captain Retired Ebenezer Budu Kumsing is a security analyst and a former member of the Ghana Armed Forces. He joins me now to tell us or to help us understand exactly what happened at Michelle Camp on Wednesday dawn. Thank you very much, Captain Retired Budu Kumsing. Now, let's take a look at exactly what happened at, or help us understand exactly what happened at Michelle Camp. Now, we're hearing from Colonel Aggrey Kwashi right now that indeed what happened was pyrotechnics exploding or going off, and that the ammunition of the Ghana Armed Forces really was intact. Please explain this to us.
Well, I think, good evening to you and our listeners. I think what Colonel Aggrey said is quite self-explanatory. It's also early days yet, and it's now that the investigations are ongoing, so we are all waiting for what really happened. But what he said is that it's the pyrotechnics, it's a workshop. We have to train the technicians on how to handle these explosives and things. And I understand from his briefing that it is in that workshop where these pyrotechnics and things are used to house minor munitions and train staff is where this accident happened.
All right.
And accidents do happen.
Yeah. Now, but he goes on to also say that if this thing had happened or the main ammunitions depot had been touched, it would have been a different story, which is what the residents are now worried about, that they are living really with something that could potentially harm and kill them. Is it appropriate to have this where it is now? And I know that it is the residents who have actually moved in, or development which has actually moved in on the depot. But isn't it time for us to get this out of the way?
Well, strategically, yes, it could be considered. But all too often, we make the people who break the law seem like they are rather the victim. Look, when I was as a young officer, some 40 years ago, God knows when you are around the early 70s and those days, when you are going to Michelle Camp, it was a travel. And from the Temamoto runabout to that place, it was empty, apart from farmers who would come and work during the day and go away, or cattle. Now, there are certain lethal areas where people are not supposed to be. And depending on the nature of the munitions, there are certain zones. At least from what we are hearing, at least about 5 kilometers from where this base is, should be secured. I mean, it should not be heavily populated. But what do we see? People actually trespass, they chase them, they trespass, and we watch people coming into danger. And when they have come into danger, they rather now demand that somebody who is a structure that is there should rather be moved, or the state should come and protect them or provide resources for them. And this sort of thinking and behavior should stop in Ghana. It is not going to be easy to move that munitions depot. It's a strategic decision, it's a big one, and there's just too much. It's a very complex situation, but it can be done. But those coming in and encroaching into the danger zone can be stopped. Now, as a short-term measure, the only thing we can do is to get the people out of the lethal zone. They have to leave. Now they will ask, so where should we go? Where did they come from? Is that area a place they should have settled in the first instance? And when they were coming, were they aware of the dangers? Look, what could also happen is that, like the colonel said, they can actually also secure the safety regimes in the area and make sure that it satisfies international standards. And I tell you, in the Ghana Armed Forces, safety standards are very, very, very strict. In fact, I hear that this depot was established in 1961. And this is the first time there's been an accident in that facility. If you heard anything else, it's not true. There could be fires outside the perimeters and these things. You understand? So, we don't know the outcome of the investigation, now that the investigation is starting.
Yeah.
So we could take those measures, and the armed forces will also have to look at those measures, see and make sure that safety standards are what they are supposed to be.
All right. But
that is a short term. They could also reinforce the bends and the barriers around them. But in the meantime, short term, the people living in the lethal zone should leave. We should not encourage them to stay.
All right. Now, from a security analyst point of view, this is a very critical installation, which now virtually the whole world knows about, that we keep our ammunitions there. Wouldn't it be prudent, as far as intelligence is concerned, to just quietly move it out of the area and relocate it elsewhere?
I mean, sometimes, you see, we watch too many films and we read too many storybooks. I mean, every big military installation has munitions. I was privileged to have lived in Germany for quite a while, and around Dusseldorf, where I live, are big military camps. You might have heard about a camp called Rheindal. You know, it's almost a settlement as big as Bremer camp. And you know that in such areas there are munitions. What happens is that in these areas where the units are, and they are keeping these munitions, there are the internal safety measures where they do, and then there are safety areas where people don't live. Even within Bremer camp, even within these barracks I saw in Germany. Look, Europe is so tight, you can't go and hide anything anywhere. So the barracks are also with the people. But then there are certain perimeters that people are not allowed to go and live in them. The internal safety regimes should also be tight. Controls should be tight. But where will you ship this thing? Bondasi used to be a long travel, very long travel. Now people are living, they are encroaching with impunity and with, I don't know, stupidity into the area, trying to settle in places where you've got even blind munitions, bombs that have been thrown and have not exploded. Can you imagine that the Air Force will go for a live firing practice in Bondasi, which they used to do, right? And then some people are just coming closer and closer and closer to the range. Is that normal?
All right.
Where else should we move it? If this sort of character continues, move it to heaven. We will migrate to heaven.
All right. Thank you very much, Captain Retired Ebenezer Budu Kumsing. He's a security analyst, and he actually was a former member of the Ghana Armed Forces. We're taking a break here on Joy News. But still ahead in the bulletin, farmers at Asante Achim North and Central districts worried about the return of herdsmen driven out in the security operation last year. Now, herdsmen and their cattle are said to be returning to some areas of the Ashanti region from where they were evicted in a security operation last year. Farmers at Asante Achim North and the Central district say that development poses a serious threat to human and food security challenges. Ohiming Teya visited some areas and interacted with the government officials who say they are adopting a diplomatic approach to addressing the issue.
Police at Agogo are investigating alleged killing of a local company farm guard said to have been shot by herdsmen. In the latest incident, herdsmen have besieged Central districts of the Ashanti region. 2 farmers were shot last year when farmers at Jeduako attempted to evict the herdsmen and their cattle. Food crops at Jeduako, Governor, Nkujua and other communities had been destroyed. Even commercial farms and the government's flagship Planting for Food and Jobs program have not been spared. There are reports portions of 3 plantations of Myro Forestry, a private entity, have also been devastated. Authorities say they are using Jojo approach to rid the area of nomadic herdsmen who are resurfacing. District Chief Executive Kojobana Hinibediakun says the presence of the herdsmen causes fear and panic among residents and threatening security in the area.
We have sat down as a district security to have a full discussion. We asked the immigration people to check on us for new ones that are in and those who are already in the system. And the decision we have taken is to have a normal discussion with them. And what we're going to do is that those who were not with us, we will ask them to leave, so that we'll manage to contain the existing ones that have been there with the farmers. You see, it's becoming very difficult and challenging for us as a district. The Forestry Commission have given contract with the Myro Company. They are planting new trees, variety of trees in the forest, and cattle are destroying it. Farmers' crops are being destroyed. And you see, if you're not very careful and you don't handle it, it can result to all sorts of things. And we don't want to hear what happened last year, where some 2 people were shot at Chidiako.
Farmers, especially women, are afraid to go to their farms for fear of being chewed up. Mr. Bediakun says the assembly lacks the capacity to single-handedly drive the herdsmen away. Mr. Barahin says George Jorwin is the best approach in tackling the menace.
To talk now, we are so limited. That's why we have divided the place into 5. So it's not like a one-time soup kind of job. And then George also, for me, normally that's what I believe. Let's discuss. If we discuss, others will listen to you, they will leave. The stubborn ones will want to stay. And so our team, I think for now, we should be able to handle it. We are not going the style where we need to just be shooting animals and taking people away. No, these are people's property. What we're saying is that we don't want you here. We cannot stay with you here. The government has in place a plan of this ranching system. And so please, where you bring the animals from, please send them back. Allow our farmers and our community to have their freedom. Women can't even go to farm. If you were with me at Judiako, well, there's a fear. Even if nothing has happened at all, what the people have been hearing was happening at Agogo. And the animals that we are talking about, these are huge cattle. So people are afraid. And so they cannot be living in that panicking kind of situation.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohimenteria reports.
We're taking a break here on Joy News, trying to bring you business news. And coming up in business news, Public Interest and Accountability Committee blames media for the dispute over recent oil find by Aka Energy. But later on in the bulletin, the governing New Patriotic Party and the opposition National Democratic Congress have been accusing each other of culpability in the loss of millions of Ghana cedis of deposits of customers of gold dealership firm Menzgold,
whose ministry lured innocent citizens to invest in Menzgold, to turn around and insult the grieving customers as greedy people.
Management of the gated community where Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority manager was recently killed are challenging claims the deceased was trailed to her home through the main gate of the estate. The GPHA Marketing and Public Affairs manager, Josephine Asante, was found stabbed to death last Sunday dawn at her MF's estate residence at Afienya near Tema. A male worker at the house is currently in custody in connection with the murder. Some media reports have suggested the deceased was pursued by her assailants from town. MF's estate, however, says that is impossible considering what it describes as the watchful and resilient security personnel manning the gate. Managing Director Sichofe Akpebu says all fingers for now point to the houseboy following inconsistencies in the statement to the police. Maxwell Agbagba has more.
So all points are now, all the things are now pointing to the houseboy because the stories are not making up. Because we don't know how the person entered. So there's no way with MF estate that you have access to come in and let you get clearance. And around that time, which was around 12:30, it was a lady alone who came in, like, from a program, and she went straight into her house. So all emphasis are on the houseboy who was arrested because his stories are contradicted. According to the police as well, they found him trying to bury some stuff when the police got there, like the lady's watch and some amount of money as well. In touch with the police people, they are still carrying out investigations, and they are yet to give feedback as to exactly what happened. But the houseboy has still been detained since and is being questioned. Okay,
so there are revelations that the houseboy actually buried the watch of the deceased and then an amount of 300 cedis. So there was no possibility that the person even scaled, your walls to get access to
no way, because
your compound.
The neighbor behind, Mr. Santi has their house has an electric barbed wire fencing around the house. The neighbor on the left has the same, the right has the same. And even the neighbor on the right was even up. He slept around 3 a.m. So he will have heard anything going on. The one on the left as well, they're always in there. They even have huge dogs in the house as well. The dog will have barked. It's internal. It's the houseboy who knew what was going on. He obviously knew what he did. So his stories are just not making up now. So the police are holding him, doing unnecessary investigations to find out.
Elsewhere, police in the central region have arrested 3 persons believed to be behind series of recent burglaries of shops and supermarkets there. The images of the 3 suspects were captured on CCTV cameras in the various supermarkets they broke into. The police has been addressing a news conference in Cape Coast, from where Richard Kojo Nyako reports.
According to the police, these suspects are behind series of break-ins in supermarkets and shops in the central region. The region recorded series of burglary activities during the last quarter of 2018. Central Regional Police Commander DCOP Paul Awini recounts such instances the suspect broke into either a supermarket or a shop.
We had a report about an unlawful entry and stealing at the Rainforest Hotel in Jukwa. The suspected criminal succeeded in stealing a 75-inch flat-screen television set. Then, on the 12th October 2018, we recorded yet another break-in and stealing at the shop of Juan Francis Quay in Mankesim. On the 19th of November last year, that's 2018, there was a high-profile break-in and stealing involving this Santec supermarket at Kotokraba in Cape Coast. And I believe you are all aware of that, where they chiseled through the blockwork of the supermarket on a Sunday, succeeded in entering and then stealing some unspecified amount of money being sales made by the supermarket.
Luckily, the regional police commander indicates the images of these suspects were captured by the closed-circuit televisions in such shops, and the search for them began in earnest.
Again, they were captured on CCTV footage. We were able to produce the images, and then we again filed them, and they were on our wanted list. And from the images at that particular place, we matched it with some other images, and it is very clear they were the same gang of criminals who perpetrated the crime. That was on 19th November.
The police administration in the region is appealing to residents to report suspicious character to the police for crime fighting to be truly a shared responsibility. Richard Kwejo-Nyakon, Joy News, Cape Coast.
Now, it's been a day of trading of accusations between the NDC and the NPP. Now, the NDC started off accusing President Akufo-Addo and some top government officials of complicity in the Men's Gold saga, alleging secret payments to some officials of government and a plot to facilitate the escape of Ghana's most wanted. Let's listen to Sami Jenfio of the National Democratic Congress.
Government's posturing in the aftermath of the closure of Men's Gold is even more bizarre and confirms its complicity in this whole scam. It reveals government's obscene determination to aid the perpetrators of this scam to get off the hook. Is it not intriguing that 4 months after the shutdown of Men's Gold, no director, no shareholder, no member of management has been arrested and put under strict surveillance by the state? Until yesterday, no effort had been made by government to freeze the accounts of NAM1 and Men's Gold. Till date, ladies and gentlemen, none of his assets and that of Men's Gold, including that of his accomplices, have been confiscated by governments.
Communications Director of the opposition National Democratic Congress, Sami Jenfio, went on to describe Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta as a greediest person in Ghana, adding he has no moral authority to describe clients of Men's Gold as greedy.
On August the 26th, 2017, private agency called Entrepreneurs Foundation of Ghana, at this Ghana's Business Quality Awards, organized under the auspices of the Ministry of Finance, bestowed on Men's Gold a Quality Business Award. And ladies and gentlemen, you can see that award on the screen. Like I told you, this is a moment of truth. And so we will give you evidence of every single claim we make here, because it is nothing but a fact. And so, this is exactly. You see, the Ministry of Finance collaborated with a private entity called Entrepreneurs Foundation of Ghana and bestowed on Men's Gold, which was a subject of investigation by the Central Bank, a quality award in 2017. Immediately they came into office. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Finance, which is headed by the cousin of the president, Ken Ofori-Atta, in collaboration with the EFG, that's the Entrepreneurs Foundation Ghana, awarded Men's Gold as one of the best companies in the gold assaying and monumental coins industry. Therefore, it is ultimate hypocrisy for this same Ken Ofori-Atta, whose ministry lured innocent citizens to invest in Men's Gold, to turn around and insult the grieving customers as greedy people. We would like to inform Ken Ofori-Atta that he is by far the greediest political figure in Ghana today.
We'll bring you more on that because the New Patriotic Party has also been responding to that in a counter news conference. We'll have that coming up. And then much later on PM Express, we bring the two parties together to discuss or deliberate this issue that has emerged today. Is it a politicization of the Men's Gold issue? That's up for discussion later on tonight. Now, residents of 3 towns in the Ashanti region continue to endure commuting challenges as bridges linking them remain broken after last year's floods. Parts of Adagya, Dunaso and Sewia have been cut off from other communities, compelling motorists and commuters to turn to long, winding alternate routes to reach their destination. Lal FM's Erastus Asare-Donko, who covered drowning of 6 people in the enclave, returned to the scene and other sites 6 months after the tragedy and filed this report.
6 people died right here at Adagya on this particular bridge. They were crossing from the other end to this end. Now residents are saying if nothing is done about this bridge until the rains come, it's possible we're going to lose more lives here at Adagya.
Recently, 6 people died here, she says. The assemblyman has collected 50 cedis from each household, but nothing has been done. If it starts raining, the whole bridge will collapse. During the rainy season, we are not able to cross to the other side.
Last year, floods destroyed this bridge, which links towns like Dunaso, Onwe, and other communities to Ejiso, and by extension, the central business district of Kumasi. Over 6 months down the lane, nothing has changed, and commercial activities remain separated by a collapsed bridge. Commercial drivers are reluctant to ply the roads in the catchment area. The best they can do under the circumstance is to end their journey on each side of the river. Commuters have to alight at one end of the road, carry their luggage to the other end to join another vehicle to their destination.
I have to take the children to the house, so I'll park here and then take a taxi, go back home. When I'm going, this journey from here to Ejiso takes me about 5 minutes. But when I'm going around this Bisiansi to, how do you call this place? It will take me about 30 minutes.
The situation is no different on the Lake Sewa Road, on which beautiful asphalted road is truncated in the middle by this broken bridge. Commuters have to meander their way through this long, winding bad route to join the road again. They want government to fix the bridges.
Somebody somewhere should have erected a notice here warning about the damage covered, right? And at the bottom of it could have said, we apologize for the inconvenience caused, to the people who use the road. Nobody has done that.
The district assemblies say the solution is beyond their financial capacity. Joseph Kwesi Assuming is DCE for Bosomtwe.
To the federal rules in Kumasi, and they have also reported to the head office in Accra. And I'm told that they are given to a contractor to visit, but I'm not too sure at the time they will start. But I hope that they are working on that.
Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
Now, congestion at the Komfanochi Teach Hospital Hematology Department laboratory has left authorities in a fix on the installation of new equipment. A blood disorder machine donated by the Ghana Hemophilia Society is the latest equipment that ought to be fixed. Head of Hematology Department, Dr. David Saki, says management will have to squeeze the equipment into the already congested laboratory due to its crucial function. Nana Senso-Mensah has more in this report.
Hemophilia is a genetically inherited blood-related disorder in 1 out of every 10,000 children. The auto analyzer is a bleeding disorder diagnostic machine. According to health experts, it's obviously faster in processing diagnosis results than the manual analyzer.
Director of this hospital.
Dr. Saki explains further.
Here you can even slot in your samples. Now you can even go and sleep, and you wake up and come and get your results. And they're very easy, very reliable, and very quick way. Thank you.
It's going to
improve the diagnosis of hemophilia in the country.
Space plays a key role in equipment performance efficiency to avoid spillage and mixing of test samples, including blood. Richard Dunay is Principal Medical Laboratory Scientist at the Hematology Unit.
The space is one of the major problems we have in the unit. And so you would appreciate that there are major equipment in this small space we find ourselves in. So we are doing hemoglobinopathies, we are doing coagulopathies, we are doing staining, we are doing complete blood counts, and we are also doing administrative work in the same room, which is not the best. Ideally, there should be space for each of these major settings in the lab. And so this congestion in the unit is not healthy. I can give a typical example where USAID has made a donation of a training microscope to the department, but because of space, this equipment has been packed and it's not used for the purpose for which it was donated to us, and that's a major problem.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Hemophilia Society is intensifying awareness on growing incidence of hemophiliacs in Ghana. Emphasis is on capacity building for lab scientists in health facilities across the country to enable them to care adequately for patients. Programs Manager Nana Yaje is optimistic about the outcome.
This training that we are having today is being sponsored by Novo Nordisk Hemophilia Foundation in Switzerland. And we had a 2-year project with them whereby we are educating, I would say we are building capacity of our healthcare professionals. We are creating awareness. We are also educating our patients and parents, because you know that it's a rare disease and it is genetic. It's a family tree. When we identify one person as hemophilia, we do a lot of tracing. We talk about tracing, knowing where actually the person got it from. It can be the parent, and we'll do this family tree approach, whereby we know in a family we can have about 3 or 4 patients being hemophilics because it's a genetic bleeding disorder.
Nana Senso-Mensah reporting.